Welcome to the AIPC interviews, where I talk to members of the Artful Eye photography community, among others, about them. It is July 24th, 2020, and on this episode, I'm speaking with a photographer from Brooklyn, New York, who has been into photography for over 40 years and has been focusing more on iPhone photography lately, especially using Hipstamatic. Welcome to the show, Erik Lieber.
Thank you, Greg. Pleased to be here.
All right. So I've noticed that you're recovering from shoulder surgery. I had to say that slow so I didn't botch it up. But it's recovering well, and otherwise, how are you?
Other than that, I'm doing fine. It's summertime. I'm a teacher, so I'm on vacation and trying to take things day by day in this strange new world that we're living in. But, everybody in the family is relatively healthy, and it's a good thing. And so I'm doing pretty well. Thank you.
Oh, good. So I'll just jump right into this here. How did you get into iPhone photography? I've seen on the I think it was on your Instagram profile. I think I saw where you stated that you've been into photography for over 40 years. So how did you get started with the phone?
Well, that's a good question. I started photography itself, back when I was about 13, and I spent many years doing darkroom photography. I still do that on occasion. Actually hope to do a bit more of that once I retire. But I've been doing cell phone photography since I got my first cell phone. I was a little bit later to the game in getting that, not having any kind of a smartphone for a while. The first iPhone I got was in, I guess, February of 2012. And one of the main reasons I got it was because of this app, Hipstamatic, which I'd heard about. And in fact, I actually used it briefly before that with my son's iPod Touch. He got the iPod Touch for his birthday, and I quickly ran out and bought the app just because I liked the different ways that you could filter the picture, I guess we would call it that. Yeah. So I was trying to do things like that with other apps. I had an LG phone for a short period of time, and I did a couple of things with that, but I was really eagerly looking forward to getting an iPhone. And finally, I had the need. I got one, I guess, as I said, in the winter of 2012, and I pretty much haven't turned back since.
Yeah, it's not too far off from when I started. I think it was October 2011 when I got my first iPhone. And, I was trying to do a little bit of mobile stuff with the BlackBerry that I had at the time, but it's when I first saw a photo that was taken with an iPhone 4 that just had me hooked.
Oh yeah, the quality of the phone was really terrific, and people buy phones for all kinds of reasons. I bought the phone for the camera, and I still do to this day. I've been kind of like on an every other year cycle, so I'm actually due for the new phone this fall. And I buy it because of the camera.
Yeah. I have to echo that comment because there's some good phones out there, some really good Android phones from Samsung and LG and the like, and I just prefer the iPhone camera. I do like iOS better, I will say that, but the camera, I just don't think you can beat the iPhone camera. There's a lot of good ones out there, like I say, but for my liking and my taste, the way it produces an image, I just like the iPhone better.
I agree. It's funny. I remember early on a friend of mine from college who he and I found each other again through Facebook, and we got together a bunch of times. And he was also into photography, and we'd go out shooting. We'd go out shooting with our DSLRs. But he kind of showed me his iPhone, and he took this picture right there and then, and he processed the whole thing right on the phone. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I got to get me one of those.
Yeah, it is. It's so cool. So, what kind of camera did you have then for a DSLR?
I had, actually at that point, I think I had a Canon 20D. That was the first one that I bought, first DSLR. And since then, I've gotten the 5D Mark II, which is what I have currently.
Oh yeah.
So I still use that, but the phone is with me all the time. And I'd mentioned Hipstamatic, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. That's pretty much done on the phone. And so, that's pretty much been my main camera that I'm shooting with these days. It's always with me.
And you must be shooting with the 10s right now, are you?
I have the XS Max, yeah.
Yeah, same as mine. Yeah, same phone as I have.
Whenever I buy them, I usually buy the top of the one, the top of the line, the big phone with the most memory on it. Actually, the funny thing is, when they got to this new big size, my initial inclination was to get the smaller one, because do I really want to run around with an iPad in my pocket?
Yeah.
I was really kind of hoping that the only difference between the smaller phone and the larger phone was the size. But as it turns out, there was a little bit more that was different to it, just in terms of optical versus digital. And I decided to go with the optical. And now I would not get a smaller phone again.
I couldn't go back.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I've got my old 5S in a drawer here, and if I'm shuffling through that drawer, I'll pick it up and look at it and think, how did I ever use that?
Hey,
compared to now.
Unfortunately, I had to use that for a couple of weeks ago. I actually had a slight disaster with my phone, and I lost about 6 months worth of pictures. We don't have to get into the stupidity of that. But for a short period of time, I was using my old 5, and I'm like, how did my fingers? I've got these big fat fingers. How did my fingers ever use this phone? But it was still there. I was still able to use it, so I was happy for that. But I like the big phones now, and I will stick with it.
Yeah, and I've been following the rumors and everything else, and I know they don't hold a whole lot of water, but sometimes they hold pretty good amounts of water. The 12, if that's what they're going to call it, it's going to have a oh gosh, what did they say it was? Like a really big phone this year, bigger than the 10s Max.
Yeah, well, I'll still get it.
Yeah.
I'll deal with whatever inconveniences the size. And there are sometimes inconveniences to size. It's funny. As a result of this big phone, I mostly wear jeans all the time, but I wear the carpenter pants, because the carpenter pants have that little slot on the side, and it fits the phone perfectly.
Oh, right. So yeah.
Hopefully it'll still fit.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much bigger it's going to be. I just forget what the size is offhand, but I know it's going to be bigger than what we're rocking here right now. So it'll be interesting to see. And with a design change, I saw a render yesterday that looked really cool. I hope they come out with it, because it had like barely any bezel on the sides. Like it was basically all screen on the front.
I think they're going to have 4 lenses too.
Yeah, well, three actual. Yeah, it'll be 3 lenses and then a LiDAR, or that the time of flight thing. It's more like a sensor than it is a camera, I think. Which will that should help quite a bit with portrait mode. And, along with AR stuff and all that kind of stuff. But I hope that's what they do. I hope they do put that in there.
We'll find out soon.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out what they're going to do, and then when we can get it, that's another story. But yeah. So, favorite app is probably Hipstamatic. Would that be a safe assumption?
Yeah, that would definitely be a safe assumption. At the moment, it definitely is, and it has been for many years. Prior to that, I was prior to really using Hipstamatic, or let me rephrase this. Hipstamatic was basically a shooting app, and then they added this editing suite to it, and I've been on their beta team for years now, and I really like the fact that I can edit within it. Prior to that, my favorite apps were things like Snapseed. There was an app called Pixel Romantic, which I used all the time. There was an app. I can't even remember what it was called, but it would have like the color palette or the quality of certain movies. Like you can do like the palette of The Godfather 2.
Oh, really?
You could have the palette of certain paintings or certain photographers, which is kind of cool. I'll have to look up and let you know what that app is called. But it was
Yeah.
a really cool app. But since the editing with Hipstamatic, I've pretty much been exclusively using that, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah. So in before we started recording, you were going to mention something about a Facebook group.
Yeah, I've been involved with this Facebook group called Hipster 365, going on now. I guess that started at the beginning of January 1st, 2014. And it was started out as like a 365 project where you would take a picture and post a picture every day. And it was based on the Hipstamatic app. Now, with Hipstamatic, you can choose a lens, a film, a flash. Each of those are a different kind of filter. And what the person who ran the group would do is they have a feature on it called Shake to Randomize. So if you shake the camera, it'll give you a random combination. So each week she would shake the camera and we'd get this random combination and we'd shoot pictures with that combination for the week. And then the following week, it would be another one and so on and so forth. So now I've been at this thing since January of 2014, and I have not missed a day. And I'm anal in the fact that I have to take the picture that I'm posting on that day. So if I post a picture today, that's part of that group. I will have taken it today, as opposed to people who shoot on the weekend and they'll post a picture each day. I kind of have to do it each day. So I've been doing this for quite some time. The first couple of years of that group, it was the Shake to Randomize. Then people would suggest different combos. And then it's been more theme-based over the last few years. People will come up with subject themes or themes with particular lenses or color or black and white. And actually, at the moment, I'm one of the 7 moderators on that group. So we focus around Hipstamatic, and people get really creative. There's some really good work there.
Yeah. Boy, just listening to you, I might have to try Hipstamatic. I got to tell you, I've never tried it.
Oh, it's a blast. I'm happy to give you all kinds of pointers and little things to do and so on and so forth. There are a lot of ways, you look at it, you can set up, like I said, you can set up the film, you can set up the lens, you can set up the flash, and each one has, different qualities to it. But there are ways around things. So I'll give you an example. Certain films have frames. Now, most things you can remove the frame if you don't want it. But there are certain kinds of frames that you might like, but it might be a color film. But you might want to do something in black and white. There are ways that you can manipulate it that I can use that color film, but come up with a black and white image.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, something which I like to call double baking. One of the settings within the app, you can, when you take the picture, it will either adjust that picture and then you're stuck with that picture, or you can save 2 files. It'll save the edited version and it will save the original one as well, the raw image of just as if shot by the native camera. And when you open up an image that's been edited, or an image that's got the lens and the film on it, it gives you a choice of edit original image or edit existing. Now, if you click on edit existing, what it does is it keeps the combination that's there already, and then you can stick another one on top of it. So what I'll do is, take something that's in color, and now I'll drop the black and white film on top of it, or vice versa, to get my color, my black and white image with a particular color film or with a particular effect that a color film might have. I don't know if I'm
That's interesting.
I don't know if I'm getting too esoteric for you, but
Well, I
it's
mean,
part of
it's nice to know right off the cuff what's capable, within
yeah,
Hipstamatic. I know there's a really huge following for the ecosystem, I'll call it an ecosystem because
yeah.
there's so many layers to it. So can you okay? So if you find a certain combination that you like, can you share that with another Hipstamatic user type of thing?
Yes, you can. Well, there are a couple of different ways you can do that. One, you just say, okay, I'm using this lens and this film and this flash, and people can set it up that way. But because you can also do editing and tweaking the edits, there are ways of downloading that actual combination with whatever, if you change the lightness or you change the shadow, things
Yeah.
like that, you can download that and they can import it within their into their phone. There's a website called Hipstography, which is run by this Belgian guy named Erik Rosen, who's really that's the only app that he uses, and he's devoted this entire website to it, and it's really pretty comprehensive and really, really fascinating. He saves all these different combos, and you can download from there. Now, me personally, I mean, one of the reasons I like this app so much is I like to tinker. I like to play. Like I said, I came from a darkroom background, so
Yeah.
I like being in control of what my image looks like. And if I'm going to borrow, let's put that in quotes, if I'm going to borrow a combination from somebody, I'll pretty much borrow the lens and the film, and all the other tweaks I'll do on my own, because if I lighten something in one picture, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to lighten it in another picture. It all depends
Right.
upon
Yeah.
the particular image.
Yeah. 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 I mean, every image is different, right? So it's going to take a different treatment, of course.
100%.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. Um, so
Yeah.
when you shoot, you're shooting within Hipstamatic then, right? Obviously, or do you sometimes shoot with, say, the native camera and import the
Sometimes I
picture
shoot
in?
with the native camera. Sometimes I shoot with the native camera. Mostly I shoot with Hipstamatic. Sometimes the native, and I think the native camera does a little bit of a better job, or from trying to get certain things. I actually feel that when I'm zooming, even though it's still a digital zoom, when I'm zooming with the native camera, I think the quality is a little bit better. So I will shoot with the native camera periodically, or sometimes I'll use some other camera app to shoot if there's a particular thing that I want to do that I can't do with Hipstamatic. I think one of our themes not that long ago had to do with movement of light, and it was not as easy to do with Hipstamatic. So there was an app called Spectre, which I used to take shots, and then I will import the image into Hipstamatic and do my processing that way.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Spectre, and their other app, Halide. I use it almost exclusively. Sometimes I'll use a native app, but first, as far as just capture, I use Halide pretty much all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Spectre is really good for, like you say, for movement and things like that. It was a game changer for stuff like waterfalls, because you can just hold it.
Absolutely.
Right. You don't need a tripod.
Yep.
It was those guys are just brilliant in how they developed it.
It's funny. You ask, whether I shoot with this. Well, obviously I'm shooting with Hipstamatic. So I had mentioned this website, Hipstography, and he picks photos of the day and he'll do portfolios. But he also has been pretty anal about things where, in order for him to post something or share it on his website, it had to be done exclusively in Hipstamatic. You couldn't even use the native camera. He has since lightened up a little bit on that. So for a long time, I'm like, I really, quote unquote, played by the rules, and just shot with that. I need to get back to expanding a bit more, because prior to doing this, I would use Hipstamatic, before they had their editing suite. And I found that I like to tweak things and make things my own. So I'll do a little bit more of that these days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking at your Instagram feed, you have so many different types of images on there. You have some, there's different types of genres, like street photography, portraiture, landscapes, cityscapes, things like that. But with the all the different stuff that you can do with Hipstamatic, it just puts an extra layer of um, making them all different again,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
Look, I'm also a student of the history of photography,
Oh
and
yeah.
I like to try and use that knowledge within my images as well. Um, you know, I've often been asked, how does one become a better photographer? And my simple answer is twofold. One, just take a lot of pictures. And the more pictures you can
Hmm.
take, the better you're going to get at it. And at the same time, you have to look at a lot of pictures. So whether that means looking at historical pictures, or looking at pictures throughout the history of photography, or looking on Instagram or looking on Facebook and seeing what people are doing, that's the way you become a better photographer. And you just kind of take everything and flush it through your own filtering system, and out comes your own work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's how you get your own style, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's
styles
cool.
do develop. You can't say, oh, poof, this is my style. But if I go back and I look at things, I see how definitely different styles emerge. Not necessarily. I mean, yes, I definitely have certain styles there, but I'll look at other people's work, or I'll go onto Instagram and I'm like, oh, that's so and so's picture. Oh, that's so and so, and you could tell because they have their own particular style, whether it be compositionally, light, color, thematic wise. People definitely develop their own styles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just thinking about some people's images on Instagram, I can see that there's definitely certain styles of that belong to certain people for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my style has changed. It just certainly evolved over the years. When the first full year that I had an iPhone was 2012, and like an idiot, I did a 365 thing, but it's turned into 366 because it was a leap year.
Yep.
But I've got all those images in thumbnails, in an enlargement and they're all like, I think they go 9 across by however many rows down,
Mm-hmm.
to make the whole year, and I can see the whole year all in one. I've got a plaque mounted, so
Well, that
on
sounds
one
great.
board, I can see the whole year, and of course, like you probably did, when I got my iPhone, I tried just about any app I can get my hands on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it looks like a hot mess of different edits and things like that. But I mean, that at that time, that was the thing to do too, was to try all these filters and different apps. Like, Hipstamatic was obviously huge then. Like I say though, I didn't use it. I used oh gosh, I don't even know what all I used. If you look at my, I mean, if you look at my purchase history on the App Store, I'm afraid to add it all up to see what I've spent. I mean, I try to get as many free ones as I can, but then there's a lot that I've purchased too, and some of them have gone away.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of them have gone away. But in those
Yeah.
days, they cost you what, $1 a piece, so it really wasn't too
Oh,
big a deal.
yeah, yeah. And I wasn't afraid to spend that dollar on them either, because
No.
I would use it. I would have fun with it, and it was a kind of uh, a way of entertaining. Uh, uh, what's the word I'm looking for?
That's a way of keeping you sane. I mean, it's a way of keeping me sane.
Yeah,
In this
yeah,
crazy
for sure.
world that we're living in, there's a consistency there, and there's a focus, no pun intended, or maybe there is a
Yeah,
pun intended there. But there's some regular aspect of it, and it kind of keeps you grounded. It keeps me grounded at any rate.
yeah,
A lot of people that have done this 365 thing, they either drop out because it's too stressful, or I can't stress about getting a picture every day or even once a week. Or it's like, I am so past that point. I don't think about it. I just know that it's going to happen. And I know I'm confident enough in my own abilities that I can make a picture if I need to. And not only that I can make a picture if I need to, but I can make a picture that I'm happy with. That's the key. It's not just a matter of, oh, I've got to post a picture today. Oh, I'm just going to take, a picture of this, spot on the ground. And if I'm going to take a picture of the spot on the ground, you're going to be sure that there's a reason I'm taking a picture of that spot, and it's not because it's going to be my daily picture.
Yeah, that's right. So with your photography, like with especially your Hipstamatic stuff, do you have any, any place you want to take that, or like a book, or?
I thought about ideas of putting together books, and they are still in my head to do that. In fact, somebody just mentioned one the other day. One of the things that I like to do is, you mentioned before, I do a lot of portraits. Not only do I do a lot of portraits, but I also do a lot of self-portraits. So either just a straight, ordinary self-portrait of myself, but a lot of what I do, there's a I guess a tool, we'll call it, on Hipstamatic that allows you to make multiple exposures. So over the last 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer than that, I've been doing a series of these images called multi selfies.
Okay, yeah.
I'll take a picture of something and then I'll superimpose my picture on it, and so that's something that I hope to put together, possibly in terms of a book. And it's there are a lot of different ways that I do it. Whether it's a shot over a landscape or a shot over some type of a pattern, or there's somebody in New York City who over the last couple of years has been posting these little sayings on, like a little poster. It's just typed out, and I guess it's about 4 feet wide by about 1 foot long with some type of saying on it. And I kind of have taken a whole bunch of these multi selfies, with these different pieces. So that's what I'd like to do that. That's something, that's been a little project that I've been working on over the last bunch of years. There's another project which also I would love to get together in some type of a book. I've already had a show with this stuff. I lost both of my parents, passed away with more or less within a year of each other in 2016, 2017. And I guess about 6 months or so after my father passed away, I started doing this series of pictures with where I had a picture of my parent, and there was some of them ones that I had shot with my iPhone, and other ones are rephotographed ones of them when they were younger. And what I do is I take that picture and I cut that picture in half, and I take a either self-portrait or it's been a portrait of my kids with my parents' face. So you can kind of see them blend together.
My apologies.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't hear what you said.
Sorry, my wife is talking to me.
That's okay.
If you go back and look at at my Instagram, you'll see the series of that stuff. And I think I called the series something with connections. And it was really interesting to look at the relationships, familial relationships, not just the physical ones, but the emotional ones that you kind of pick up through those images as well. So that was another project that's an ongoing project that I'm working on.
Yeah. I've been going through your Instagram feed while you've been talking here, and like I'm seeing a lot of the ones where you've like you say, you've taken your self portrait and put it in with other things here, and it's really cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I think the first time I did that, it was actually a shot of my daughter. We were out for a walk in Vermont, and I took a picture of her, and then I did a multiple exposure with an uprooted tree, and then I did one of myself. I think that was the first one that I had done of that, and it's really just carried on since then.
Yeah. Once you find something that's really cool like that, it's just something you want to keep going on with. Oh yeah, I just come across those pictures that you're talking about with your parents.
Yeah, that's a
neat
project.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, very creative. Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
So trying to think here if there's anything else I wanted to ask you. because we've kind of really expanded on the regular, quote unquote, regular questions that I ask people when I do these interviews, but this has been very enlightening to the
good.
point
I'm
where
glad.
I'm really seriously thinking of trying this Hipstamatic thing.
Well, good. We'll have to stay in touch about that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
It's funny you had mentioned earlier, when you were talking about your grid of your 365,
Yeah.
and different stylistic changes and so on and so forth. I also have noticed, definite stylistic changes in my photography over the years. Before using the phone at all, I mean, I would take some street photography, but I definitely would do a lot of things that were abstract, a lot of urban landscapes and things like that. But then I got into this period where I was pretty much doing exclusively street photography, particularly with the phone. I always wanted to have some type of humanity in there. And then I kind of sort of shied away from images without people. But then I've gone back into things where I will take things without people. It changes, and
Mm-hmm.
there are about 6,000 pictures on my Instagram site, and there's a lot. There's a lot of variety there, and at a quick glance you might say, "Oh, this guy's all over the place. He does all these things." But if you look, there are patterns that repeat themselves in there, and I'm just putting it out there for the world to see. But when the time does come for me to put together a show or to put together a book or something like that, I have a wealth of material from which to draw and then sort things out. Actually, one of these days I'd like to put all that stuff's available on Instagram and Facebook. I'd like to my website, which is kind of sort of not functioning at the moment. I'd like to try and cull all this stuff together and sort it out within the website.
Yeah. I was going to mention that about your site. I tried to go to it there, and there was it didn't work or whatever.
Yeah, I that's one of the things that's on my list to take care of. That website actually hadn't been updated in a while. I don't think there's any iPhone photography on there. That was pretty much the DSLR stuff. I'll get that up and fixed. I'll let you know about that. That's one of my projects for the summer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Anything else you'd like to plug? Where we can find you online.
Right now, I mean, you can find me online, and most of the images are the same. You can find me at ES Lieber on Instagram. You could find me on Tumblr. It's also ES Lieber at Tumblr. And I'm on Facebook, and I've got a public site on Facebook, so you can find me there as well. Hopefully I'll get my.
I'm not on Facebook, so stick around after we're done recording, and I'll get a link from you for that.
Okay.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Well, this has been an awesome chat, Erik. I'm so glad we finally got this going, because we've been trying to get this coordinated for a while here, and then the world kind of fell apart. So that's okay. But I'm glad we finally got the opportunity to talk, and
me too.
And get to know you a little better. It's always a learning thing for me when I do this podcast. Right now, I'm kind of itching to maybe try Hipstamatic. If the last show I did, I talked to a lady from Atlanta. Her name is Michelle Simmons, and she had some really cool tricks and tips that she uses for editing. And one of them that comes to mind is when she's editing a photo, she'll switch it to black and white. Mm-hmm. And if it looks really good in black and white, then she'll go back to color, and she'll see what maybe it needs to make it better, and then she'll switch it back to color and work on it. And that kind of almost sounds like something that could be brought over to Hipstamatic.
You can, I mean, because you have the opportunity of changing. They have, I don't even know how many they have, 60, 70 films and 60, 70 lenses, and they have a certain number that are black and white and a certain number that are color. Mm-hmm. And yes, you can try things out in different ways, and sometimes things look better in black and white, sometimes they look better in color, sometimes they're equally good in both. as a general rule, I mean, I will present things in different ways. I generally try when I work on one picture, I'll put it up that way. And I mean, I'll play with it again. I may post it again at some point, but I would wait some time as opposed to just bombarding everybody with the same image 17 different ways. You know,
right.
I tend to come to things. I mean, unless the theme has to do with color, or the particular film has to do with color, I tend to try and look at things first through black and white because that's really where my background is. You know, being my background is there because I had a darkroom, still have a darkroom. You know, I've been doing that for years. But you know, little known fact, I'm also colorblind, which does not mean that I can't see colors. I just have difficulty distinguishing between certain things. So colors are the way they are for me. So you know, black and white is my love, but I do a lot of work in colors. Matter of fact, over the last month or two, I've been spending a lot of time with color because of the Hipstamatic. They release a new film and a new lens once a month. And now sometimes things get repetitive, and you hear everybody in the community bitching and moaning about, you know, this is a waste of money or whatever. But they come out with some nice things every now and again. There's one that came out not that long ago. The lens is called Disco Stew, is what they call the lens, and it kind of gives this little star-like quality to the highlights. And that, coupled with certain color films, just makes some really exquisite color images. So I was playing around a lot with that a few weeks ago, and before that, I was also doing quite a bit in color. I kind of lit upon this combination, which kind of harkened back to some, you know, slide film from the 50s. And I kind of got that kind of slightly warmish feel to it, and I ran with it. And so I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this, but you know, I like having the ability to do that and play with these things. I lost my train of thought there. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just looking at your Instagram, and there's a picture of looks like a police car in a garage with the hood up. Is that looks like it's been treated with Disco Stew?
Yes, that was one. Yes, that was one.
Yeah.
Right around that time, you'll see there's a picture of a baseball field taken from the Manhattan Bridge with the skyline in the background. That's also Disco Stew. Also right around that time. If you look a little bit further back, there's another picture about that warm color, also taken by that same garage. You can see the fins of a 57 Bel Air coming out, and the color
really
rich and warm. And look for that picture; you'll see what I mean.
Yeah, I'll have a look for it for sure. Yeah, I'm going to spend a little more time in your Instagram feed here, looking for some of these things and see if I could pick them out here.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Erik, it's been fantastic talking with you here, and so you're on Instagram, and of course you're in the Artful Life Photography community, and so we'll put some links in the show notes for where we can find you and all that stuff. You can find me. Go ahead.
If you want, you know, to plug something, and if there's anybody else out there who's using Hipstamatic, you know, we've got this group Hipsta 365. You have to, you know, apply to be in it. I mean, not that we're necessarily turning people away, but I'm one of the moderators on there as well. And you know, we welcome new people to come in there. I can give you one more plug. This is an Instagram thing. Another thing where I'm a moderator for. There's a tag called Hipstatones, which the basis is using Hipstamatic, but creating monochromatic images that are not black and white. So, sepia or blue or any other kind of combination that's monochromatic, but not exclusively black and white. And that's another thing that I've been, you know, fairly active in for the last 4 or 5 years. And the Instagram name is Hipstatones, and the tag is, you know, hashtag Hipstatones. We run different let's call them competitions, whatever. We call it Week Pop, you know, weekend pop-up. Used to be we would do like a little pop-up, a little daily thing where you would, you know, do things on a particular theme. And now we do it on the weekends. Every weekend there's a different theme, whether it be using a particular lens or a particular film or a particular theme. and we pick. There are 4 moderators. Each one will pick their favorite and put up, the winners of the week kind of thing. And that's on
Cool.
Instagram.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll put those links in there too, and people can just click on them, and it'll take them right to them.
Terrific.
Yeah. Alrighty. Okay. Well, you can find me on. Are you on Twitter?
I am on Twitter. It's at ES Lieber.
Okay. So nice to get the same thing for all the social outlets.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Macmillan Photo. On Twitter, it's Macmillan_photo. I wish I could get the other one, but I couldn't. On Instagram, Macmillan Photo. On Dayflash, I am just Macmillan. You can find, you can get me on the Tiny Shutter podcast as well at tinyshutter.com. And I don't get a chance to put these podcasts out regularly, but I do them when I can and as often as I can and whenever I can line up a guest. You can find us on the Apple Podcast app, on Downcast, Overcast, just about any other podcatcher, I think, on iOS and Android should be able to pick it up. And we're on iHeartRadio. Just search for Artful Eye Photography interviews and look for a cover photo of a microphone. You should be able to find us. You can find the podcast at artfulipc.com, and the Artful Eye Photography community is at artfulipc.club. So thanks again, Erik. It's been a great pleasure, and we will be seeing you on the Instas.
I appreciate it. Thank you for interviewing.
Right on. Okay. Take care.
All right.